Welcome to another Photoshop instructional video. I'm going to show you how to do shading and create a shadow in Photoshop. Now there's always more than one way to do this, so what I'm going to show you is just one of the many. Okay, so I've got my snowman here and I want to do some shading on the hat. Okay, we've got a strong light source from the left, the sun as it were, and when I photographed this hat it was with a very direct top light. So what I'm going to do, I've got my hat layer here. I've got these two layers that change the color of the hat. I've done that in a previous video. And what I'm going to do is add another layer above this topmost hue saturation adjustment layer. So the new layer button, I've got a blank layer, nothing on it. I'm going to fill that with 50% gray. So edit, fill. Get my screen up here, so edit fill, 50% gray, boom. Now it's going to fill the entire layer, which covers everything, but what I want to do is clip that to the hat layer. So the hue saturation adjustments are both clipped. That's indicated by these little arrows right here. Okay, this shows that it's clipped, and things have to be clipped in series. So this first one can be clipped, has to be clipped for this next one to be clipped, and if this is going to be clipped, these both have to be clipped before it. So here this is. One way to clip it is to control click and choose create clipping mask, or if you like shortcuts, option command G will clip it. So there you see the 50% gray applied just to the hat. And what I'm going to do is change that to overlay blending mode. So when 50% gray is in an overlay mode, it's invisible. And from there, I can use the dodge and burn tools to lighten. So I'm just going to kind of paint a little bit here to lighten up this side of the hat. Maybe create a little bit of a highlight. I don't want to go crazy because it is a hat. It's not like, you know, some shiny or smooth surface, but then I'm going to use the dodge tool. I'm sorry, that was the dodge tool. I'm going to use the burn tool to darken the other side a bit. My brush a little bigger. So something like that. So to see it without it, boom, with it, there you go. Okay, I've already done that on some of the snowballs to give a little shading there. It's the same process. So there you have that. Okay, to make a shadow for this snowman, what I'm going to do is select the parts that would be casting a shadow. So if I had arms on him, I would also select them, but for now, he doesn't have arms. So I'm going to command click on the thumbnail. So the thumbnail is a little picture in the layers palette of the layer. You can see there's a snowball right there. Holding the command key down while clicking on a layer selects what's on that layer. If I want to add more layers to my selection, I continue holding command, I press shift and click on the other layers that I want to add. So where's my hat? There's my hat. Okay, so now I've got a selection of my snowman. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my background layer and make a new layer so that I can fill this selection with the color of the shadow. And I'm going to base my shadow color on the colors you see in the picture itself. So if I click my foreground color box here, it opens up my color picker and it gives me the little eyedropper, and I can click out here on some snow, shadow, try to get the color. And I always like to make it a little darker. I always find that it's going to be better if I do that. It might be too dark. And anytime you use the color picker, it's really not necessarily 100% accurate. It's getting one pixel out of many that might be there. Whoops. zooming in really close. So if you can see, you know, there's some greens, there's some purples. There's kind of a range of different colors there. So it's just kind of giving you a ballpark. Okay, to fill this, you could go back to Edit, Fill, and choose foreground color. Boom, that'd be one way. Another way to fill, the shortcut is Option Delete. That fills with your foreground color. Command Delete fills with your background color. So now you can't really see it's there, but you can look at my layers palette and see there's a little shadow colored snowman shape. So I'm going to deselect with Command D. I'm going to press Command T for free transform. Now when I'm in free transform, I can press the Command key, and that lets me grab these handles and move them around. So I'm going to press Command and grab this middle one and basically lay the shadow down on the surface of the snow like it should be. And I can tweak it a little bit. Taper it if I want. Ultimately, I'm going to hit return when I like it. And you notice that this blocks out all the texture of the snow. So that's why I would use a blending mode, such as hard light or something like that. Too dark. Yeah, I think hard light, multiply might be too dark. Color burn, no good. Darken, meh. So what I'm going to do is do hard light. I feel like it's too light right behind my snowman. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to add some blur to this, just to blur it up a little bit. Now, I could just do filter, where am I? Blur, Gaussian blur, and blur the whole thing. That's quite a lot of blur. You notice the shadows in the photo are pretty, they're not real blurry. You know, they stay pretty solid. But another way to do this is to use what's called a smart filter. So I'm going to go to Filter and convert this layer for smart filters. Okay. What that does is it allows me to apply that same blur filter. So Gaussian blur lets you dial in the amount of blur that you want. But it will also let you go back and edit that amount of blur. And beyond that, what it does is it gives you a mask. And this mask is for the blur effect. Meaning, if I want to apply the blur and have it fade out, or have it be blurry or further away, I can do that. And I'm going to use a gradient to do that. So I'm on my gradient. I'm using a black to white gradient. So if you go to the basics, you'll see this is the black to white. This is foreground to background. This is foreground to transparent. Oh, this is foreground to background. This is black to white. Same thing. But if I apply this by clicking and dragging, you'll see it gets sharper here and fades out over here. And I can kind of reapply it until I get it to look how I want. Okay, now if I want it darker here, what I'm going to do is do Command J, basically duplicate the snowman shadow. I'm going to scale. It keeps giving me these warnings when I have stuff, when I scale stuff, but that's okay. Okay, and in this one, I'm going to blur it a lot more. I really don't want to see the shape of the snowman anymore. I just want it to be darker. And I kind of feel like it came out too blue. A couple things I could do about that. I could select both of these layers and group them. Command G. So these are my shadow. And if I want to take some of that blue out, I'm I'm going to add an adjustment layer. So I'm going to go to this little black and white circle, go down to hue saturation, and I'm going to clip this just for this layer. I'm going to desaturate it. Take a little bit of that blue out. I could also adjust this, but then it's going to get green. I'm just going to leave it where it is and desaturate. Okay, the nice thing about that, it's its own layer. I can adjust it. I can go in and adjust the layers that are in here as well. So if I want to blur this second one more, I can. Or less. Whatever. All right, well, I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching. Keep on photoshopping.